so your Sims are living their best lives, completing aspirations, hosting events, and possibly enjoying holidays, all the while gaining lots of satisfaction points in the process. But what should your Sims use these satisfaction points on? Well, we're about to answer just that by looking at 14 of the best satisfaction point rewards to consider making use of. And know that I'll be focusing on reward traits rather than consumable potions or usable objects like the money tree. Let's go. First up is Gym Rat. It is super affordable at just 500 satisfaction points, and in my opinion it's a must for any sim that regularly works out. In short, this trait makes it so your Sims won't rapidly lose hygiene and start smelling super bad while working out. And Sims with this trait will also gain some fun from working out as well, which is something that I wish I did in real life. Overall, it'll turn working out from an activity that leaves your Sims sad and smelling bad into a fun and enjoyable activity. Next up is Observant. Again, this is super affordable at 500 satisfaction points, and this trait lets you learn a Sim's traits right after meeting them. I find where this comes in handy most is when you're looking for a towny Sim to enter a relationship with, as you can much more easily avoid forming a strong bond with a Sim that you later find out to be an evil kleptomaniac who hates children. Though also no judgment if that's what you're looking for. Moving on now to Always Welcome. Again, this is pretty cheap at 500 points, and it'll make it so that when you visit other Sims houses, they won't mind when you do normally inappropriate things, like use their kitchen to cook. I find this most useful for when you're doing things like the homeless challenge and you need to borrow someone else's house for the day, or for when your Sim is at uni and they don't have a kitchen in their dorm. Overall, it kind of just makes it so that anyone's home feels like your own home, and we do love stealing other people's houses. Next up is Storm Chaser from the Seasons expansion pack, and this costs 1000 satisfaction points. If you're sick of your Sims getting scared moodlets from every thunderstorm, then this is the trait for you. Not only does it prevent you from becoming scared of storms, but it also protects your Sim against dying from repeated thunder strikes. And rather than die, repeated strikes in a short period of time will eventually make your Sim hypercharged. And during this time, your Sim's eyes will glow blue, and they'll be able to click on the ground outdoors and select Bring the Lightning, which will summon a lightning strike on that area. It is a lot of fun to use, but sadly you can't use it to destroy objects or to kill other Sims. Also, a side note is that the erratic trait can also prevent a Sim from being killed by repeated lightning strikes and enable them to get into a hypercharged state where they can bring the lightning as well. Now let's look at the Marketable trait, which costs 1500 satisfaction points, and this is one of my personal favorites. Now the Marketable trait affects all the items that are created by Sims. Think artworks, woodwork objects, and even food like baked goods, and it makes selling them much more lucrative. With this trait, objects you make will be worth up to 3 times as much as they would usually be worth. Note that this isn't a guaranteed increase. For example, if before you had the trait you could create a baked good that was consistently worth around 500 simoleons, then after you have the trait, making this same object could see it be worth around 500 and 1500 simoleons at random. If your Sim is going into any sort of career where they're creating objects to sell, then this is pretty much a must-have. A quick side note is that if you're becoming a painter or writer, then also consider the Creative Visionary trait for 2000 satisfaction points, which will increase the chance of making masterworks in these 2 areas. Now to quickly mention 2 traits that will just help you avoid death. Yes, it's Heatproof and Iceproof. They cost 2000 satisfaction points each, and they're brought in with the Seasons expansion pack. Essentially, Heatproof will make your Sims immune to heat, and Iceproof immune to the cold. And we all know how much Sims love to die from the heat and the cold. All in all, while it can cost a few points to get both, if you have a Sim that you really love and have put a lot of time into, or even just a Sim who spends lots of times outdoors, then I'd say it's worth it. The next reward traits that we're going to look at is a set that both focus on career progression. First up is Connections, which cost 3000 points. And this reward trait allows your Sims to enter any career at rank 4, so they'll get a decent head start and avoid the earlier stages. Then you might also want to consider Entrepreneurial, which costs 2,000 points, and which will just serve to passively boost your Sims' work performance, allowing them to get promotions a little bit faster. Now, are your Sims continually getting embarrassed from peeing their pants? No? Okay, well let's pretend yes. If your Sim then picks up the Shameless reward trait for 2,000 satisfaction points, they'll never get an embarrassed moodlet again. That's right, they can just keep peeing their pants in public and they won't even care. In addition to generally making it easier to get your Sims in a positive mood, having this trait also means that your Sims will never have to worry about death from embarrassment too. Moving on, and know that there's a similar trait called Carefree that costs 3,000 satisfaction points. And having this trait just means that your Sims will never get tense moodlets again making it a fair bit easier to keep your Sims in a good mood. For the 10th standout reward trait, let's talk about Beguiling, which costs 2,500 satisfaction points and which is perfect for your more flirty Sims. Once your Sim has this trait, then they'll gain access to the Beguile romantic interaction, which is super powerful. Not only does it increase your Sim's romantic relationship with the target Sim, but it also gives the Sims you beguile a super strong plus 50 flirty moodlet for 4 hours, making future romantic interactions while the moodlet is active much more likely to succeed. And it only makes sense that this then leads into the next reward trait that we'll talk about, being Great Kisser. This costs 3,000 satisfaction points and makes your kissing interactions much more successful. But even more interestingly is that it also makes it so that your Sims gain charisma experience from kissing. And this is actually quite substantial. It took me just 14 kisses to go from level 1 all the way to level 5 charisma, making it potentially the fastest way to train the skill in the game. Note though that you'll only gain charisma experience from kisses that you yourself initiate. Let's now take a look at the Fertile trait. Costing 3,000 satisfaction points, fertile Sims will have an easier time trying for a baby, but much more importantly is that they'll also have a higher chance of having twins and triplets. I want to flag that if you're going down this path, also consider the On Ley Line Lot trait, which also increases the chance of Sims having twins. So you can have two forces at play helping you to have twins rather than just one. The 13th trait that we're going to highlight is Savant, which is rather expensive at 4,000 satisfaction points. This trait makes skill training faster across the board, and from my testing it'll save you around 20% of the usual time that it takes to train skills. While the boost isn't massive itself, the fact that it impacts every single skill in the game means you'll almost certainly make good use of it. And by saving your Sim a fair bit of time skilling, they'll be able to spend more time doing other things. And finally, I want to call out the range of reward traits that help slow need decay. Independent costs 2,000 points and slows social need decay. Steel Bladder also costs 2,000 points and slows bladder need decay. Then Antiseptic costs 3,000 and slows hygiene need decay, while Hardly Hungry costs 4,000 points and slows hunger need decay. Finally, there's Seldom Sleepy, which costs 4,000 points and slows energy need decay. These essentially all serve a similar purpose, making your Sims easier to care for and hence letting your Sims live their best lives more easily. I actually prefer these to the reward traits that completely stop a needs decay, which are more expensive, simply because I feel like when a Sim's need is completely stopped, they feel less human. Picking up a couple of these will just see you with a Sim that's a lot easier to keep happy. And especially when you have larger households, having a few Sims with needs that decay slower can help the household run a lot smoother. And with that, we're at the end. That's 14 or so satisfaction point reward traits that you need to consider using. If you enjoyed or found this helpful, then please subscribe and leave a like. I would really appreciate it, and I hope that you have an amazing day. See you later.